All right, welcome to Halitics. I'm Hal Ginsberg. So glad to talk to you today. Hope you'll join me. Hope you'll subscribe if you aren't yet a subscriber. Click bottom right of your screen, the blue and white square. Call in 240-363-7190. It is the free-for-all. That's usually the program I record and stream on Fridays. I call it the free-for-all because I kind of revisit the topics that we've been discussing all week and would love to get your response to them, especially if you didn't watch the original video live. You may have some thoughts you'd like to share. So I call this the free-for-all. Everyone is always welcome on my program. That's what I do a little differently, I think, than just about every other YouTube host. There are a few shows that sometimes take calls, but I think they generally screen them. They know in advance who their random callers might be. That's not the case with me. I take your calls because I want to speak to you. I want to know what you think, what you have to say, and those who call in know and who listen to my show and watch it know that I try really hard to be respectful of all opinions. And I'll always listen to you, but the flip side of that is I do want you to listen to me as well. All right, I discussed earlier this week's rally for Israel. And when I first saw the size of the crowd, I was very disheartened. I was very disappointed because it seemed like a very large group of people had descended on Washington, D.C. more than attended the Palestinian rally, the pro-Gaza event that I attended. Now, I wasn't confident, I wasn't certain of my position that there were more people at the Israel rally, but when I saw the picture that looked like it was taken from Capitol Hill looking out on the mall, it looked like a larger group. Now, there's some question about that. The Washington Post has said there were tens of thousands of people at the Israel march and rally, and there were thousands, maybe tens of thousands as well at the Palestinian rally. I thought there might have been over 100K at the pro-Israel event. Again, I didn't want there to be a huge number of folks there because for me, that's the wrong side. Those are the oppressors. It seems to me if you're going to rally for Israel today, it really is akin to rallying for Germany in 1940. I mean, they're the persecutor. They're the country that is laying it on innocent civilians who have far less power, have virtually no power at all in both the West Bank and Gaza. Some revisions of the numbers suggest that the numbers were very similar, or perhaps there were even more people at the Palestine march. There certainly have been around the world far greater numbers of people coming out to show support for Gaza. Israel is losing what support it has had as people see the treatment, the mistreatment, the abusive treatment, the murderous rampage that Israel is laying on Gaza. I want to go back to that rally. We're going to start with that, though, in terms of videos. Here's Van Jones. I like Van Jones. You may like Van Jones. I usually like Van Jones. He spoke at the rally. You can see that headline from Mediaite. Declare him, I'm a peace guy. He's met with chance of no ceasefire. I thought this was such a weak, to be perfectly honest with you, I thought this was a very, very weak speech by Van Jones. I think he saw where the crowd's sentiments lay, and they weren't where I thought they were. At first I thought they were very pro-Israel, anti-Gaza, anti-Palestine. I played a video for you yesterday where some of the rally goers were talking about how important peace was to them. And I kind of reconsidered. I thought, well, maybe I'm being a little bit unfair. Maybe this is more of a peace rally than I had anticipated. And that made me feel better. This video kind of brings me back to earth a little bit. Let's play it. I'll interrupt a little bit. Here's Van Jones, CNN's pet liberal. Pet progressive, I suppose you could say, speaking to the pro-Israel crowd in front of the Capitol. This is Tuesday.
Now, whatever our different political beliefs and views are about what's happening overseas, you do not have to support all the policies of Israel.
And I do apologize for the relatively poor quality. This is how it came. This is not some mistake by me. But what he's saying is whatever the policies are of Israel, government, You don't have to support the government to support Israel and its right to exist. Let's see if we can get that back. I'm going to play it one more time because it was a little hard to understand. I think his audio gets a lot better, though, as the video continues.
Now, whatever our different political beliefs and views are about what's happening overseas, you do not have to support all the policies of Israel to support and love and stand with all the people of Israel during a time of profound mourning. That's why I'm here. Now, like all of us, as was just said, my heart breaks for all the Israeli children. My heart breaks for all the Palestinian children. And my heart breaks for all of the Jewish American children who are now also living in fear. I pray that every single hostage is released. I pray that. I pray that. Bring them home. Bring them home. Bring them home. And I also pray that Hamas ends its reign of terror. I pray that. I pray that.
All right, so the crowd there much more responsive when he goes after Hamas even than when he says, let's free the hostages. When he says, I pray that Hamas end its reign of terror, that's what really gets the crowd going. And to me, that is, unfortunate. Again, this is about, it seems, revenge, vengeance, if you will, by this crowd. That's what they want, not some kind of peaceful resolution, not to save the victims, who are mostly largely innocent, the victims of Hamas. Let's go back to Van Jones.
And I have to say, I'm a peace guy. I'm a peace guy. I pray for peace. No more rockets from Gaza and no more bombs falling down on the people of Gaza. God protect the children. God protect children. Let's end all the horror and all the heartbreak in the Holy Land. Let's end all of it. Let's end all of it.
All right, so it's kind of raucous, but not really applause when he says, let's end the bombs on Gaza. Again, this is not a crowd at the pro-Israel rally who seem to be concerned about life. They're concerned about protecting, I suppose, Israeli life, but they're also cheering, hunting down Hamas, killing Hamas, ending Hamas. So it's war. It's not pro-peace. I had this conversation, I think, with Arlen on Monday, and he said, well, everyone's pro-peace. That's just not true. And we're going to hear from the Israeli foreign minister a little later in this video, and he's clearly not for peace.
But I'll be honest in closing. When I think about what's happening over there, I don't feel powerful to do something about what's happening over there. What I do feel powerful is to maybe do something about what's happening here. Let's take a stand here against anti-Jewish bigotry. Let's take a stand against Muslims. Let's take a stand here against hatred. Let's take a stand here against hatred of all kinds. I don't want any Jewish mother to be afraid here to drop her baby off at the JCC. I don't want that. I don't want that. I don't want any Jewish son to be afraid to leave his dorm room and go to the Hillel Center for a meal. I don't want that. I don't want that. And I don't want any rabbi tonight to have to go and buy an extra can of white paint just to be able to paint over a swastika on a synagogue tomorrow morning.
All right, so I found this portion of the speech very disappointing again. Van Jones feeding the crowd's feelings of being victims, of being the ones who are being persecuted. And yes, there is some anti-Semitism, sure. But Jews are not the victims here. The victims are the Gazans. The victims are the Palestinians on the West Bank. And there is plenty of anti-Muslim sentiment as well. There's lots of Islamophobia, probably more here than there is anti-Semitism. This was such a great opportunity for Van Jones to really speak truth to this crowd. And he would have been booed off the stage. So it's the worst, outcome here, because there's no way we can talk to each other. There's no way we can present the alternative viewpoint to these people who are largely privileged, largely the ones who are, seem silent or even cheerleading oppression, murder, massacres. And I don't know what to do. It's like you're talking about the new Holocaust, the climate catastrophe, and you're talking to a crowd of people who are all like, yeah, let's go buy gas guzzlers. It's very, very worrisome. We're tribals. We're tribalists. We're tribalist people. Is that the word? And there may be no hope for humanity at this point. And Van Jones is playing to this crowd. He's not willing to take them on. It's so unfortunate. This is who CNN hires as their most left guy. It's not what we want. It's not what we need. 240-363-7190.
Jewish daughter, which I just learned, to change her name in her rideshare app because she's afraid for her driver to know that she is Jewish. That should not be.
I looked that story up. I couldn't find it. I'm not saying it isn't true. Maybe it is true that people are changing their names in their apps because of their religion. But, people have done this. Immigrants have been doing this for, centuries. People I know, often shorten their names so they are less ethnic sounding or less Jewish sounding. This is commonplace. It's not great. You wish it didn't have to happen. But to make this the raison d'etre, this is the thing that Van Jones is upset about, is someone has to change their name in their rideshare app, not a hospital getting bombed, not patients dying in their beds, doctors being killed. It's really, really sad, isn't it?
That should not be happening here. So, no matter what happens anyplace else, we can do better here. No more horror there. No more hatred here. You are not alone. Thank you very much.
All right, so very pablum-y speech, really, in the end. Very weak by Van Jones, and simply unwilling to take this crowd on. This crowd, which apparently was to a degree motivated by bloodlust. And it causes a real loss of hope for the future. All right, 240-363-7190, 240-363-7190. And as Johnny said, as I showed this yesterday, it does appear we're not going to get peace. There's not going to be shalom. There's not going to be shalom. There's not going to be business as usual shalom. There's not going to be peace. It's just not going to happen. And I was cautiously optimistic yesterday. I know Biden's been saying he thinks there have been some, I guess they call them, pauses, interruptions. But the killing just continues virtually unabated. And to what end and for what reason? It doesn't appear that there's any reason for this. All right, so here's an interview. This is from Wednesday. I think the group is called The Project. I'm not sure who exactly they are, but I think this is pretty damn instructive about the horrors that Israel is perpetrating over there in Gaza.
Civilians inside the hospital do not lose their status. There are nurses, doctors, there are 670 patients and almost 7,000 displaced people whose life is at great risk right now.
Is Hamas using this hospital as a command center?
You need to ask Israel to provide the proof that it is using it. Because look, we have gone through 5 major wars before this one. And Israel has attacked hospitals and ambulances claiming that they were being used by Hamas for military purposes. And most of these cases, the allegations proved false. I'm just saying.
All right. And that is apparently the case here as well. There does not appear to be certainly any smoking gun, if you want to use that term, to confirm that this hospital, which was attacked, was the site of some kind of Hamas labyrinthine subterranean headquarters. They just haven't found anything like that. And that was what the IDF used to justify that claim, is what they used as a justification for this attack. It's outrageous. I mean, there's no other way. Again, I've said this, words fail. There are times when you just don't have the language to express just the horror that you're seeing, that you're observing. I mean, I don't know what else to say there. I mean, that's the end of it. So I said yesterday, I thought maybe we would have some hope. Maybe things could get a little bit better. It looks like that's absolutely not the case. Israel is simply not prepared to take its foot off the throat of the Palestinian people. Here is Israeli ambassador on the Hassan show, Mehdi Hassan. And I'm not a fan of Mehdi Hassan. He clearly does carry water for the corporate elites in the United States. That's why he has a program to begin with on MSNBC. But for whatever reason, it seems as though corporate media is prepared right now, at least on the left. I don't think this is the case on Fox. But corporate media on the left, at least, seems to be somewhat willing to challenge the Israeli narrative. And that's a good thing. Maybe, just maybe, we'll see some peace break out. It doesn't look like it. Mehdi Hassan.
Don't tell me I don't know my Jewish history. I know my Jewish history.
Go and attack the Amalekites. Do not spare them. Put to death men, women, and children. Is that what you're doing in Gaza? That's what the Prime Minister invoked.
No. He was describing, first of all, no one in Israel is calling for women and children to be killed. On the contrary. All
right. So he's ignoring the real question, which was, is that what you're doing? When Hassan is speaking to this advisor, Mark Regev, and he says, aren't you putting to death, just like it says in the Bible, God says, go to put to death the people of Amalek, which is the term that Netanyahu uses to describe, I guess, Gaza. I thought Amalek was the West Bank, but I don't really know my historical atlases very well. So assuming Amalek is Gaza, God says to the Hebrewites or the Israelites, go and put to death the people of Amalek. And so Hassan says, isn't that what you're doing? Clearly, that's what you're doing. And he's like, oh, no one's talking about it. That's what the response from the advisors. Oh, we're not talking about that. No one's talking about putting to death people. No, but you're just doing it. You're just doing it, whether you're talking about it or not. You're doing it.
How can you say
your heritage minister did. He said nuke Gaza.
No. What we have said is we're going to wipe out Hamas, and we are going to wipe out Hamas. But we make a clear distinction between Hamas and the Palestinian civilians of the...
Well, they make a clear distinction, and their distinction is, well, Hamas uses its people as a human shield, so we get to kill them. And we even know that this was, by the way, yesterday's Hassan show. And we even know that claim is often false. It's as you heard from the UN advisor in the previous clip, Israel's always saying, oh, they're using ambulances, they're using hospitals, they're using clinics, as Hamas is using them as a sort of a beer to protect themselves, as a shield. And over, it's not true. And over, the IDF can't justify its claims, its justifications for targeting schools, hospitals, medical clinics. And you're seeing that again.
Gaza Strip, who are in many ways Hamas oppresses them. Hamas might want to kill Israelis, but the way Hamas treats the civilian population of Gaza, I'm sure you yourself will admit that they deserve better than that terrible Hamas.
Well, even if that's true, so what? That's utterly irrelevant to what Israel is doing now to Gaza. It's not the Hamas. There's not an argument here, oh, it's okay or it's not okay to start shooting and killing Hamas militants. The question is it okay to kill Gazans, civilians, totally innocent people? Is that okay? And his response is, well, Gaza treats them badly too. What the hell kind of response is that? Does anyone buy that?
Hamas terrorist regime.
But on that note, we're out of time. Well, I'll give you one very straightforward last yes or no question for you. Joe Biden wants a two-state solution in the Middle East. He wants it sooner rather than later, he says, to get peace in the Middle East. Does your government, does Prime Minister Netanyahu support a two-state solution? Yes or no?
All right, before he doesn't answer that question, I just want to say again, two-state solution is ridiculous. There's no possibility that you could have a two-state solution. There has to be a one-state solution. All the Palestinians have to be welcomed as full citizens of a combined state of Israel that includes the Palestinians as secure, religiously protected group. That's the only way to get peace. If you want peace, you have to have justice. That is the solution. There's no such thing. A two-state solution is absurd. But let's hear the response from Nick Regev.
I think it's a time now for war. It's a time for victory.
So
and when that's
it's a time for war. That's his answer. So and this was yesterday. So don't expect any kind of ceasefires. I was hoping for one. Don't expect it. It's a time for war. It's a time for victory. That's where we are. That's where we are right now. No shalom, no shalom. That's where we are. That's the war that Israel and our staunch, unquestioning, undivided support for Israel has brought us. Probably, very possibly Armageddon. Very possibly. All right, let's see if we can finish off this interview. Get my face a little.
Don't tell me I don't know about
That was it. So there's not going to be peace. Don't expect it. Just brace for more death, more destruction, more carnage. It's so heartbreaking, isn't it? I mean, can anyone look at that and think it's okay? All right, 240-363-7190 if you want to join me. 240-363-7190. And again, Israel has failed. They have to, if they want somehow to have some kind of credibility, they have to be able to justify their attacks on civilians, what they're doing to civilians. That's the only way that this is going to work for them. And they haven't been able to do it. They simply cannot do it. It's just not, they're just not there. And let me see, I had this video. I want to get this on there. It isn't in my deck, but I thought, Channel 4 is really, really good. And they interviewed Channel 24, not 4, Channel 24 Live France. And they were interviewing I guess an expert about this Al-Shifa attack. And the bottom line is they don't have proof that this was some kind of command center. It just isn't there, no matter what the IDF says. They cannot justify it, and not at this point. It's time to demand, I believe. It's time that we insist there has to be some kind of peace. They just can't. And the only way that'll happen, folks, is if our government demands it. Israel will listen because they're afraid to lose support from their one staunchest ally. and that's the United States. If indeed Joe Biden said, we're done, we're cutting you off, get your friggin' army out of Gaza and stop with the West Bank settlements. If we did that, this war would end. The killing would end. But Joe Biden will not do that. Some would say, well, the pro-Israel lobby, AIPAC, will not allow him to do that. I elect leaders to do what's right. I want our leaders to do the moral thing, the just thing. I want them to try to save lives. I don't want them to take orders from AIPAC, whose loyalty is completely not to the United States, not to justice. All right, let's get to, and why I don't. Okay, so, we heard from Lawrence earlier this week, Lawrence McDonald, about why he thinks we have to support, Joe Biden. We have to stop Trump. That's Arlen's position as well. This is what many progressives believe. I just can't accept that. I cannot, because the Democrats, and I never like to say the phrase, I heard this a lot, if you vote for the lesser of evils, you get evil. I don't always buy that. There's lots of gradations, and there's really evil, and there's sort of evil, and there's, on balance, a little less good, bad, more bad than good. So you have to be constantly making decisions about how much, we can accept. Is there enough good on this end to make up for the bad on that end? But at some point, there are some things that are so wrong, so misguided, so evil, that we do have a duty to say no. We do have a duty to vote against it, not just simply say, well, the Democrats aren't quite as bad. This video here, this is Aaron Mate on the Amtrak from Wilmington, Delaware, confronting a Democratic senator, Chris Coons. Everyone always says, oh, the problem with the Democrats is Joe Manchin. The problem with the Democrats is Kyrsten Sinema. No, the problem with the Democrats is the Democratic Party. It is the people in the party. That's the problem. And here Aaron Mate confronts a U.S. senator who should be, I think we don't get it. We don't understand as voters. Their job is to listen to us. They're public servants. They're supposed to do what we want. We're not supposed to just simply take orders from them and follow their lead and say, oh, okay, well, you're better than Trump, so it's okay. Is this okay with you?
Senator, I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but when I call for a ceasefire in Gaza, I'm a journalist, my name's Aaron Mate. When I call for a ceasefire in Gaza, you have 4,600 children killed. 46. I know it's a quiet car, and I apologize.
All right, so Coons is really mad because he's on a train and he's in a quiet car. Oh no, I'm in a quiet car. How dare you interrupt my quiet car? Okay, how else am I supposed to reach you? I could call your office. I never get a meeting with you, right? Actually, I am going to call Coons' office right after this and see if I can meet. You have somebody come to you. You talk to them. You don't have to give them a ton of time. I get it. You're busy. You're reading your newspaper. You're polite. You're responsive. Look at that guy's an asshole.
I understand, but children are dying. Children are dying, sir. More than 40. When I call for a ceasefire, they're being killed with our weapons.
Look at him. He couldn't care less. He couldn't give a rat's fat ass. Children are dying. They're being killed with American weapons. This guy couldn't care less. Look at that face. The only thing he cares about, this is your Democratic U.S. Senator from Delaware. The only thing he cares about is getting back to his newspaper. And please leave me alone. I don't want to be confronted with my votes. I don't want to be told I'm doing something wrong. No, no, no. Please leave me alone. That's not who I want as my in power. Right? I mean, the whole thing is, well, we can't let the Republicans have power. Is the response so we can have this guy in power? Is that your answer? 240-363-7190.
Killing kids in Gaza.
Who are you?
My name is Aaron Madge.
Who are you? Look, does it even matter? He's clearly knowledgeable. He's asking a great question. Oh, who are you?
I'm a journalist.
Nice to meet you, Aaron.
Likewise.
Please stop talking to me.
I'm sorry, sir.
Why?
It's a direct
Please stop
question.
talking to me. It's so talk about fascist. This is pure fascism. I'm above talking to a citizen, an American, somebody on the train with me. I don't have to. Well, you know what? You should have to. That's your job description, to talk to your constituents, to talk to the American people.
Than 11,000 civilians as we're talking being killed. I'm a journalist with for the Gray Zone.
What's the Gray Zone?
It's a U.S. based news website.
Good for you.
Thank you. And right now with our support,
please
kids
stop.
are being killed. I'm sorry. With our
Please
weapons,
stop.
I'm asking you to explain why.
Is there a bigger jerk in the universe than this guy? I don't think so.
I call for a
Aaron, you're
ceasefire.
bothering me and everyone else around.
You're bothering. Who's he
Kids in Gaza are
bothering?
being massacred. I'm asking you,
Aaron.
please explain. Why not call for a ceasefire?
Stop. Sir,
Stop.
could I please
What?
have
I
some
mean-
help here?
So our duty, and I mean, I don't live in Delaware, but our duty is to not vote for this guy. That's it. You don't vote for him. You don't vote for Chris Coons because of the way he acts, because of his arrogance, his condescension, and ultimately, what's even worse, the worst of all, is his complete indifference to the deaths in Gaza. And it gets worse. It gets so cringy and uncomfortable, and it gets worse.
Kids are being killed with our
Please
weapons.
stop. I'm asking you to stop.
Why not stop
This
the?
is
Why
not
not call for?
All he has to do is answer the question, which is a completely legitimate question that goes to the heart of his job as a representative of the people of the state of Delaware. Why aren't you calling for a ceasefire? That's all he has to do. All Chris Coons has to do here is answer Aaron Mate. This failure is, again, this is exactly why don't tell me the Democrats are better. Don't tell me they're not as bad. He supports genocide. How can you be worse than that?
Stop
Place
it up.
for you to interview me. You're bothering everybody else around.
It's a crisis
How
right
did you
now.
get this seat?
I bought the seat.
No. He's bothering me while I'm trying to do work.
And then, of course, he calls in the dogs and they
I'm asking why not
kick
call for a
Mate
ceasefire.
off the train. It is really, this was one of the most upsetting videos I've seen. I mean, I know it's not like people being killed or anything like that, which is terribly upsetting, more so, objectively far more upsetting. But just seeing the complete indifference of our elected representatives to the plight of people who our government is helping kill, his utter unwillingness to talk to somebody who has every right to ask him questions. Oh, I'm in a quiet car. We don't see, and again, I say we don't live in a democracy. That is fascism. And please, again, don't tell me, I mean, you tell me whatever you want, but I don't see how anyone can watch that video and think it's okay to vote for Democrats. Now, not every Democrat is that bad. There are some who are further to the left, but they're all dismissive of, condescending towards people who challenge them, especially if they challenge them to the left. Now, if Aaron Mate had his checkbook open and was writing a $2,700 check, I can guarantee you Chris Coons would have listened to what he had to say. I can guarantee you. he would have answered the question, I'm sure. Maybe it wouldn't have been the most disingenuous or ingenuous, I guess, right? It probably would have been maybe disingenuous. It might not have been the most honest response or the most complete response, but I think he would have answered it if he was going to get money to answer it. State of American democracy. We're not in a democracy. All right, one more video I want to play. This also really upset me. Those who, have followed me on Facebook or whatever, I tend to like Jimmy Dore. I tend to be a Dore fan. I think a lot of what Jimmy Dore has to say is really, really, really important. And I think he's brought to light a lot of issues that I also try. I don't have an audience like his, which, by the way, brings me back to please click like, please click subscribe. I don't have an audience his size, but I try to make some of the same points he does about how both political parties have failed us completely, how they're not on our side, how the leadership in both parties is corrupt. I try to make those points that we need to look elsewhere. We need to come up with a different plan, because the plan we have now, if we're let's take over the Democratic Party, that's not working. So I try to make the same points he does. Endless war is a disaster. When you hear generals tell you we need to help Ukraine run in the other direction, try to make those points, because I think those are very important, very valid points. I think he's raised some very legitimate questions about the efficacy of the vaccines for COVID. And the most important aspect of that is that because we have a for-profit healthcare system, the pharmaceutical companies, big pharma's ultimate aim is to line its own pockets, not to cure diseases. And those two goals, our goal, which is we are healthy and safe, their goal that they get richer and richer and richer, are often at direct odds. So I appreciate all that Jimmy's done in those realms. But there are areas where he's way out of his league. And I wish he knew it. I wish he got it. And one of those is, for whatever reason, and I don't understand it, to be frank with you, he really doesn't like Greta Thunberg, the climate activist. And there's nothing there's nothing more important than fighting to save our climate. Everything else, the war in Palestine, Israel's war against the Palestinian people is partly due to the climate catastrophe, the new Holocaust. There's limited fresh water, there's limited resources, and they're becoming less and less plentiful as time goes on. So Israel's going to take over whatever it can and push out the people who aren't Jewish from those areas. That's part of it. That's a big part of it. The poverty in Gaza that's driving so many there to embrace Hamas, which is, of course, pushed by Israel, but also the poverty is also due to scarce resources, limited resources, desertification, which is the new Holocaust. So you can't separate these issues, endless war, the new Holocaust, the climate catastrophe. They go together. Wealth and income inequality go together. And Greta Thunberg gets this. Jimmy Dore, again, some of his limited view of the world, his inability to see except in the blackest blacks and the whitest whites, either you're all good or you're all bad. It doesn't work. It's ultimately unsuccessful. It's unsuccessful in the sense that he's wrong. It is successful, I think, sadly, in media. And this is proved over and over, like the success of MSNBC and Fox. The unwillingness, the inability to see any shades of gray. So for whatever reason, Greta Thunberg is wrong on Ukraine. I don't know if she's changed her mind. She did come out and support NATO's fomenting endless war there. She's wrong. But that doesn't mean all the other things she's done are wrong. She has consistently spoken truth to power. She has rallied thousands, maybe millions, against burning fossil fuels. And here she's at a rally to, at the intersection of the Gaza war, the war by Israel on the Gazan people, and the climate crisis. So, just real quick, what Dore writes. Greta Thunberg is very pro-war in Ukraine, and I've never seen her protest the number one emitter of carbon in the world, which is the U.S. military. Well, you'll sort of see it here. Okay, Jimmy, you're going to see it right here. It's sort of odd to me that you're so critical when she's here talking against the U.S. military. Here she ties climate justice to the plight of the Palestinians. Well, of course, they go together. I already said that. Who seem to have more pressing issues at the moment than climate change. I don't understand that argument. Yes, of course. Their most pressing issue is not to get bombed on. But the bombing is it's driven in part by the climate catastrophe. And what she is saying, what Thunberg is saying to her climate activists, to people who are there to support fighting the new Holocaust, the climate catastrophe, what she's saying to them is, hey, that issue, fossil fuel burning, is tied to justice for Palestinians. We have to be on the same side with the Palestinians. For whatever reason, Dore refuses to get that. What is he, when he says no climate justice on occupied lands? So Dore also asks, and I'm going to play the video in a second. Dore also asks, what does no climate justice on occupied lands even mean? It means that we're not going to stop burning fossil fuels. We're not going to have a society where everyone has enough, nobody has too much, and we're using sustainable renewables like the solar and wind power. It's not going to happen as long as we have imperialism, as long as one country occupies another. It's really not that complicated, Jimmy. I know you get it. No, she's not a tool of the oligarchy. I get if someone doesn't agree with you, you have to see them as evil. You can't see shades of gray. It's very disappointing. It's one of the reasons I do this live stream. Because somebody that I used to really, really respect and still respect doesn't get it a lot of the times. And certainly doesn't get the new climate holocaust. All right, here's the video. All right, let me get that again. Okay. So he's criticizing her. This bully rushes the stage.
Listening. The people in power have not been listening.
I come here for a climate demonstration, not a political view.
Now, that's the strangest comment. He says, I've come here for a climate demonstration, not a political something. Lecture, I suppose, is what he said. It's very strange because you can't have climate justice. We can't end the fossil fuel crisis without politics, obviously. What does he want, like a tutorial on how to put solar panels on your roof? Is that what he's saying? I didn't want to hear you tell us about how bad the government is. Well, if you want to solve the climate crisis, you're going to have to listen to how bad the government is, because that's the only way we're going to solve it. And he's very rude, tears it out of her hand, and then you'll hear the chant.
Calm down. Calm down. Calm down. climate justice on occupied land. No climate justice on occupied land.
All right. So again, for whatever reason, Jimmy, and he's done a few videos now where he's really criticized Greta. I'm not going to play those for you, but I don't get it. I mean, here's somebody who really is brave, who has to put up with an assault as she's assaulted in that video. She's rallying young people. She's bringing an incredibly important issue to the fore. And all he can do is criticize her. I get it. She's wrong on Ukraine. She's right on Palestine. She's right on Gaza. So let's, again, as I've said over and over, if someone's our ally on an issue, as Marjorie Taylor Greene is, frankly, on cutting off military supplies, which we should be doing to Ukraine, she's our ally. She even voted against endless war in Israel, Palestine, although wrongly has gone after, really wrongly gone after Rashida Tlaib. And by the way, listen to it. I think it is Tlaib. I want to say Tlaib because it seems like it's spelled that way, or Tlaib even. A-I is often pronounced I, but it's Tlaib. So, yes. But again, so even Marjorie Taylor Greene, as bad as she is on many issues and as terrible as she is on Rashida Tlaib, calling for her censure because she has criticized Israel, on the most important issue of all, which is providing more weaponry to Israel to use to kill Palestinians, Taylor Greene is actually good on that issue. So I take, with Greta Thunberg, a lot of good with one issue where she ain't that great. And that's what we have to do. We have to say, okay, no permanent allies, no permanent enemies. But if you're my ally on an issue and you're a staunch, great ally, the last thing I want to do is beat you up and cancel you and diminish you because we disagree on something else. We can talk about it. We can try to come to some agreement. And if we can't, well, then we'll work together on what we can. That's the only way we're going to solve, the existential threats we face. All right, you guys have a great weekend. Sorry I didn't get more calls today or yesterday, or indeed any. That would have been nice, but I get it. So have a really enjoy the fall. Next week is Thanksgiving. I'll be 4 days. Following week, I'm going to talk to Juan Dominguez in December. He's running for Maryland governor, and we'll talk about why we need to vote for him. So have a great afternoon, great day, and I'll be back Monday. Indeed, Monday.